Right?
Awesome. I do want to say for our victims slash students, if you guys find, as always, this is our choro of every single session and every single activity. If you hear some words that you probably cannot understand, feel free to write them down because we can make a boarding part out of this. Just just a comment out there. Our students know what we're talking about, but yeah. Okay.
Casual.
Ajá, sí, nomás aquí comentando, ¿verdad? But yes. So if we're ready, I believe that we can get started. So, guys, we're very happy to present Ken Richter now to you. He likes lots of stuff, among them travel, education, exploring new cultures, and learning in general. Um, he's awesome. You guys are going to love him. He's been one of the greatest teachers that I've had the chance to work with in my life. Um,
Por dos.
he's he's been to many different places. He's lived in Argentina. He's lived in China. He's lived in is it Singapore? Am I? It's Singapore. Obviously Mexico, and the USA. So he has some very interesting things that you guys are going to like. So, without further ado, I think the floor is yours, Ken. Welcome.
Oh,
Hey,
Woo!
thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you guys.
Thank you for accepting it.
Yeah, okay. Well, this presentation is really about just some things that I don't understand about Mexico. I've lived here for 20 years, uh, and there's still some stuff I just don't get. Some of it's just trivial and silly, some of it's deeper. I've talked to lots and lots of people about these issues, of course, but I still don't totally can't wrap my head around some of these things. Um, some of them are, as I say, are just silly things. Some of them are slightly critical of Mexico. One is critical of anywhere you live. But all of this is given in love. I love Mexico. I love my life here. I've spent 20 years here. Um, but anyway, I'm hoping that maybe some of you can help me understand these things. So if you have some answers for me, I would love to hear them, or at least we can discuss them and we'll talk about our different perspectives on some of these things.
We can try.
Okay, so the first one has nothing to do with culture. If you can, oh, do I have control or do you have control?
I can do it.
Oh, do you guys play Wordle? Do you know what
Yeah.
this is?
yep.
This is one of the most popular games in English. It's played by English speakers all over the world. I'm totally addicted to this game. This is how I start every single day. I have my coffee and I play Wordle. I've played over 450 games of this. And this morning, you can advance the slide one, I guessed it in one. I guessed it on the first try. That's never
Wow.
happened. That's impossible. That's incredible. It's like winning the lottery. I'm so happy. So this is going to be a really good day for me. Okay, I just wanted to share that because I'm so thrilled about it. I'm so happy about it.
It happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'll talk about cultural stuff. What's up with you guys and salud? I understand we do this in English too. If somebody sneezes, we say, bless you, God bless you, or something. But you guys are obsessed with this. If somebody on the other side of a crowded room sneezes, somebody on the other side will yell over the party noise and the music, salud! If you sneeze 2 or 3 times in a row, they'll say salud every single time. I've never seen a culture so obsessed with sneezing and the need to respond to sneezers.
We want everyone to be healthy.
Yes, it's just bizarre to me. Sometimes I will, like on a bus or something, I will try to. I feel like a sneeze coming on, and I'll try to hold it and not sneeze because I know that if I sneeze on a public bus or something like that, everybody in the bus is going to turn to me and tell me "Salud." If you guys are walking along a street and there's somebody like lying in the sidewalk, like a drunk or something, you will step over him and try to ignore him and try to stay as far away from him as possible, unless he sneezes, in which case you will definitely turn to him and say, "Salud." it's
Yes.
just built in. Okay, that's all I have to say about sneezing. What the hell is up with these things? Oh my God, I hate this. I've never seen another country so obsessed with them, and I understand their point, especially around things like school zones or residential zones. They definitely get you to slow down, so that's great. But 90% of them look like this on the next slide. They're not marked. I mean, maybe 20 years ago it was painted yellow. Maybe there was a sign once upon a time saying tope, be careful. But usually what happens is you come up against these things at 100 kilometers an hour, and you only know there's a tope after it's torn out the bottom of your car.
And you hit your head.
Yeah, and you hit your head on the top of the car. I really don't understand these topes. I feel like I have to buy a new car every couple of years just because of the damage these things do to my car.
I have sorry, Ken. I want to ask. Can we make questions during the
Oh,
presentation? Or
please,
should we keep them? Okay.
No,
okay.
no,
Okay.
please, it would be better if we just had a discussion about all these things as we go through them.
Yes, I have a question about topes. If they don't exist, at least this way in the USA, how does that work? How do you tell others to slow down, or how do you make them slow
How
down,
do
or
you
what?
stop?
Uh-huh.
So you guys believe in forcing people to slow down. It's more like an honor system in the United States. We just tend to follow the rules more. The reason you guys need topes, I think, is because people just generally don't follow the rules.
Yes.
Which is something I'm going to talk about in a few slides from now, which is kind of a deeper cultural thing. But I mean, why do you guys? Why? Well, your question. I mean, we're talking about culture, right? Your question is a very interesting cultural question. You just assume that you need them because
For me to make people, yeah.
Yeah.
that's an assumption I think most countries wouldn't make. Most countries, I think, would sort of assume, well, if you have a sign saying go 30 miles an hour, people will go 30 miles an hour. You don't need to destroy their cars to get them to do that.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah,
I-
probably Daniel may have a comment about
Oh
topes.
yes.
'Cause Daniel is a
An
traffic activist and a bike activist. So no, he says no.
Okay.
Well, I'm a bike activist. Also, I love to ride my bike, and when I'm riding my bike, I like topes because they're kind of fun to go over. They're like little ski jumps.
He jumps like woo. Yeah.
But when I'm in my car, I'm not such a big fan.
They're not
And
very
I wouldn't mind them. I really, there's nothing philosophically wrong with them. I would not mind them if they just marked them. If you just get some paint and put some yellow paint on them and put a sign, saying in 100 meters, here's a tope, then fine, no problem. But this picture, you can see there's no paint on it. There's no way to see it. So what's the point? If you can't see it, then it's not doing anything except destroying cars. It's not.
You only notice it. I mean, as soon as you pass it by.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You know it when you hit it. At
Yeah.
100
It's a surprise factor.
That's right. Okay, well that's kind of trivial. Next one. This is a picture of a really nice steak cooked the correct way. I don't understand why no one in Mexico, why you refuse to eat it this way. Here's the next slide. That's what you guys eat.
Yeah.
I will never understand this. I will never understand this. It's just, it's a tragedy. It breaks my heart. It kills me. I love food. I'm really passionate about food. And when I see Mexicans take a really good piece of meat and eat it this way, I want to cry. It's just.
Probably we have this idea that it needs to be bien
Cooked
cocido,
all the way
like
through. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I mean, again, going back to the salud thing, we
Yeah.
want everyone to be healthy. So something kind of medium rare or even raw, I mean, it is not exactly healthy. So it's like, no, no, no.
Yes.
We need to kill all bacteria. You know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. We don't want to die. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are literally, there must be a billion people who eat their meat the correct way, red.
And then there's Mexicans.
They're not dying off. I guarantee none of us are dying from our red meat habit.
Yeah, I know.
And what's weird recently in Mexico is no one will eat a piece of red meat still, which is odd. But you guys are suddenly just obsessed with sushi. You have no problem with that.
That's true.
So something is wrong with your brains. You're like, sushi, awesome. Oh, red meat, super dangerous. I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
understand.
We need help. Sorry.
Yeah, because raw fish makes much more sense.
Um,
And it's really weird because now recently I've seen at restaurants steak tartare, which is completely raw, and I love that. But I see Mexicans eating it, so you're willing to eat raw meat. Some Mexicans, and you're willing to eat overdone meat, but you
Yeah.
just won't eat medium rare meat.
because it tastes different and it looks different and it feels different. So it has that, specifically with tartar meat, because it has that look that tells you, oh, okay, it's cooked. So you
Yeah.
kind of overlook the fact that it's actually not cooked.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry. Again.
The rest of you, if you have an opinion about this, that you say, no, 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 wait a minute, Ken. I mean,
Uh-huh.
you can go. Marco has a
Échale, Marco.
comment.
Well, okay. First of all, I don't like sushi.
Okay. Fair
I
enough.
just really, I seriously dislike. For a time, I was vegetarian, not a vegan. I don't go to the extreme, but I don't know. It's just like I can afford this, you know. In some ways, it's more expensive to have a diet that is strictly vegetables and this sort of stuff. And just let's face it. I mean, the meat is awesome. It's medium cook or you just overcook. I don't know. I just like it both ways. I really enjoy it, and I think that with the medium cook, I think it has to do more. I mean, I think it goes well with a red wine. So we don't have always the money to afford a good red wine. So maybe that's why we don't eat that much that way. But that's just what I think.
Beer
My
will
point of-
do.
Is that you, Marco? My Marco, the Marco I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
it's-
that's him.
me.
Nice to see you here, Marco. Nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, same. I mean, like, okay, where's Ken? Where's Ken? Nobody tells me what.
Well, I mean, if we're getting serious about cultural stuff, I think we should all eat less meat. It's not good for the planet. It's not good for the cows. It's not good for our health. But it sure tastes good. And when I have a piece of steak, I want the best possible one I can get. And so it's sacrilege for me to eat it like that photo. Okay, here's those are all kinds of trivial things. This is maybe more polemical. This is a picture of homeless people in California, in San Francisco, where I'm from. The problem in U.S. is getting worse and worse. There are more and more camps like this, and it's very sad. And I don't really know what can be done about it. It's a product of capitalism. It's a product of politics. And one of the things I've noticed in Mexico is you guys don't have this. That's really kind of great. I mean, if you go to the next slide, in Mexico, you'll see things like this, and that's also really sad and tragic. But even though that's terrible, this person has a home. They have a roof over their head. They can improve this from generation to generation. This is really sad and terrible, but it's better than living in a tent. And so that's a really interesting difference, I think, between the United States and Mexico is, as far as I can tell, you guys don't really have a homeless problem like we do. This person's plot may be very tiny, but it's theirs and they own it, and they have a place to go home to. A lot of Americans don't have a place to go home to. The police keep moving them around from place to place. They're not allowed to keep their tents in any one place. There's no chance that they're ever going to build even a shack on the ground that they're sleeping on. In some places like New York or Northern California, it's exceedingly cold in the winters, very difficult. People die every year from the cold. And so, this is something I like about Mexico very much, is that no matter how poor you are, you seem to be able to have a roof over your head and a place to call your own.
Like this ingenuity, no? That, I mean, we have a place here, we have to build a house.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it's like super poor and etc. But in the end, it's like what you were saying, no? Having a roof over our
Mhm.
heads. Yeah.
Mhm. Something that is also curious is that in the USA you have a lot of homeless people who live in their cars,
Yeah.
and I think that we don't really have those here in Mexico. Like if you're poor and if you're homeless, you just can't have a car, because if you have a car, you cannot be homeless.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. This isn't in my slide stack, but it's interesting to me how many people in Mexico buy cars they can't afford and pay ridiculous interest on them. They'll go home and eat frijoles and tortillas, but they'll make their car payments of 5,000 pesos a
Yeah.
month,
Yeah.
plus
True.
the insurance. It's a lot of people care more about their cars than they do about their homes, I think.
Mhm.
Yep.
So if you do become poor, you're definitely losing your car.
Yeah.
If you have some economic problems, the car is the first thing you lose. And so you're certainly not going to sleep in your car. That's just not an option.
Mhm.
In the US, where the public transportation basically doesn't exist, that's another thing that's not very good about the US. You need a car. Everyone has a car. Lots of people buy just very poor cars for $1,000 or whatever because you need one. There's no way you can exist in the US without a car.
Mhm.
You can exist pretty well in Mexico without one because we have a better public transportation system. As bad as it can be, it's better than nothing, which is what we have in the US.
Mhm.
So most people have some kind of car, and so that's the first option. In Mexico, you lose your car, but you probably don't lose your home. In the US, the first thing you lose is your home. You can't make up the payments, you can't pay the mortgage, and so you end up sleeping in your car. So that's obviously a difference between our countries.
Mhm. That's right.
Okay, this is a criticism. If you ask any Mexican about what is great about your culture, they'll say we love our families. I don't think Mexicans understand how bad that sounds to foreigners, because what they're saying is they're making a distinction. Our culture is different than your culture because in our culture we love our families. You can see why that sounds very insulting to a foreigner, because guess what? We love our families too. We also really,
We have a
really
heart.
as a gringo, I can tell you that I love my family. It's not a Mexican cultural thing that you love your families. Everybody loves their families, and you don't love your families more than we love our families. And so it's interesting to me that you guys have this idea. Now, I know that culturally, historically, the family has been the central organizing principle of the society. And that's a little different than in other cultures. Although, for instance, the Japanese and the Chinese also have the family as the central organizing principle of the culture. So even in that, Mexicans are not totally alone. But look at this next quote. I mean, this gives you an idea how deeply ingrained this family idea is. If you go to the next slide. Here's AMLO recently being asked about the fentanyl crisis in the United States. And he responds, there's a lot of disintegration of families in the US. That's what he's talking about. There's a lot of individualism in the US. There's a lack of love. What? There's a lack of brotherhood. Americans don't hug enough, apparently, and there's not enough embraces amongst gringos. Lopez Obrador said of the U.S. crisis. That is why the U.S. officials should be dedicating funds to address the causes. So apparently he thinks we should be putting more money in making families love each other more in the U.S.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how insane a statement that is. Lopez Obrador has repeatedly said that Mexico's close-knit family values, and there you see, how deep this goes into the culture of Mexico, are what have saved it from the wave of fentanyl overdoses. Experts say the Mexican cartels are making so much more money now from the U.S. market that they see no need to sell fentanyl in their home market because your families love each other, and in America we don't love each other. And that's the problem.
Oh my God.
And you know what? It is, as you were saying, like ingrained in our unconscious mind. It happens with every single governor or municipal president or something. All of them, they say, I mean, just recently, the president here in Leon, she said, like, crimes and drugs and etc. It's because families are not paying enough attention. She's panista. No, she's not. I mean, we are not paying enough attention to families because families, etc. So yeah, we have it very ingrained, and somehow, from my very particular Mexican point of view, that makes us lose the objective or the problem. I mean, we just become blind. I see. We need to love our families. Sí, no. Es mi papá, no importa que me pegue y sea un alcohólico. I mean, things like that, no?
Right.
And
I mean, that's the other part of this
Yeah.
issue is, I've spent 20 years here. I'm married to a Mexican woman. I know a lot of Mexican families. I have friends. I would say that in America, there are a lot of, excuse my language, fucked up families in the United States. And there's an equal number of fucked up families in Mexico. The idea that there's this unity and beauty of the Mexican family that is somehow different than other cultures. Every culture has some great families, and every culture has totally dysfunctional families. And there, I wouldn't say that, there's no difference everywhere I've been. There have been happy families and sad families. And so it's odd that Mexicans, to my mind, to the gringo mind, think that their families are somehow superior. There's some great ones and some terrible ones. As someone said earlier, when you were talking about the crabs in the bucket, I de todo, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Do we have a comment here? No? Okay, Speedy Gonzalez next. No, let's continue. Marco has a
Yes, Marco has something.
This is also a trivial one, just a silly
okay. Regarding to the family thing, I think it's the. I mean, what is your name, sir? I don't know your name.
Sergio.
Hi.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's I think it's like a really deep cultural stuff. It's not that. I mean, for example, I always consider myself like I'm not that close to my family, right? But now that, for example, that I have to stay with my mom, I just didn't know how that really close I am to her, and because I mean, everyone else can go to can go like really far, and I don't want to say bad words here, but yeah, I mean the concept of family, as you mentioned, it has to do not only with politicians, it has to do with people that are not necessarily that old, but it's like always the family. It's like the center of the Mexican culture. And I see that in a problem that bueno, perdón, me trabé. I see that as not as a problem, but it's like I think we need to evolve from that perspective, because, for example, in the case of políticas públicas and all that, for example, in the case of rights for women, it's always this comment like, okay, this is going to destroy the family, or this is going to destroy the families, and the families are the nucleus. So imagine to have a woman can marry another woman, Why? Because that is not a family. I mean, under the concept of these people, the same with men. A man can marry another man, because that would not be a family. Uh, from my perspective, a family is a group of people that they love each other. And I agree with Ken. It's like I think every person in every country loves their families. But here's like I don't know if we watch the movies from the 50s or 40s, and it's always the same that the family is the center of everything. So I don't know. It's like a interesting topic. I hadn't seen it that way. Really,
Yeah,
really.
Yes.
I certainly want to underline or highlight, I have nothing against families. Quite the opposite. I just want people to be aware that, everyone loves their families. It's not a Mexican thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that, there are just as many dysfunctional families in Mexico as anywhere else. Family is family. And I think that's a
Sure.
universal thing.
Mhm.
The problems and the good stuff, it's all universal. Okay, well, this next one is just also trivial. But I hate it when I walk down the street and someone says, "Hey, hola, amigo, amigo." Oh God, I hate that. You're not my amigo. I don't know who you are. We've never spoken. Amigo means something, and you're trivializing what it means. My friends, we're talking about family in the last one. I have friends who I consider my family. To be a real friend is takes time and work and effort, and at a certain point, your friends are part of your family, and so this just kind of trivializes the importance of friendship that I think I have, and I think many gringos have, and it's just annoying. It's more than anything.
Like being
Do
over
you?
polite, and over friendly.
Over friendly.
Like I guess,
Yeah.
amigo, no.
If
My
someone
friend.
says "Hola, amigo," they want
Uh-huh.
something from you.
Yeah,
Right?
yes, of course.
No one says "Hola, amigo. Tengo algo para
Mhm.
ti. Tengo este regalo porque eres mi amigo." I
Yeah.
just love
Mhm.
you so much. I thought I would give you this gift. No,
Mm.
they don't want to give you anything. They want something from you, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
that's true.
that's a very bad friendship.
You don't want those kind of friends. Yeah.
Yes, you're always taking, taking, taking. You're never giving. I don't understand.
Yeah. Do you have the same problem with words like buddy, for example? Because it has a very close meaning to amigo, but I know it's used in a slightly different way and everything. But if someone says, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" or something, do you feel the same kind
Oh
of?
yeah, I would definitely feel the same. That's a very good point. If someone says, "Hey, buddy," I just want to say, "Fuck you." I don't know who you are. We're
You're
not
not my
buddies. We're not
buddy.
You're
buddies.
not my body.
You're not
Wait.
my.
Yeah.
uh, that's a very good point. I would say in American culture we do that a little bit less, but you're right. People do that. But you hear "hello, hola, amigo" quite a bit.
Mhm.
Or at least I do. It's a gringo walking around because. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a thing that we do even with strangers in here. Like if you're just walking by the street and someone wants to tell you something, amigo, like
Yes.
whatever they want to tell you, even if you've never seen them before, amigo, amiga, it's the word to go to. Yeah.
Okay, so that's all I have to
Important.
say about amigos. Okay, so this is a deeper one. I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 or 5 issues here um, that all relate to this, I think. I think there's a perception that gringos are very individualistic uh, as opposed to collectivist societies. The most collectivist societies would probably be Asian cultures, right? But you always hear about rugged individualism in the United States and how individualistic Americans are. And I'm going to sort of tentatively a little bit make the argument that you guys are way more individualistic than we are. I think you're the most individualist country that I've ever been to. And I think that causes a lot of the problems. And that also goes back to this family thing. The families are the unit, not And within the families, the individuals are the unit. So anyway, the next slide is you guys are terrible drivers. I'm sorry to say that. I'm
That's
really
why we have topes.
yeah. Oh my God.
That explains everything.
It's okay, full
And it is,
circle.
and I think that ties back to individualism because you guys really don't give a shit about the other people on the road. Everyone's doing their own thing, and they're doing it without thinking about if we all work together to drive at the same speed, and we don't change lanes, and we don't cut people off. And if I'm not texting while I'm driving, then maybe things would be better for everybody. Maybe we can all work together and work with the system, and then the driving would be a better experience for everybody. But you guys don't. I'm sorry, but you don't do that.
Don't be sorry. It's a fact. Yeah.
Everybody is thinking, I have to be somewhere because I'm late, because you guys are always late. I'll pick up my time on the freeway and I will just blow past everybody else and I'll somehow magically get to where I'm going faster than everybody else. But of course, it ends up being much slower because all of you are trying to do that at the same time. All of you are trying to go as fast as possible and cut as many people off as possible and change as many lanes as possible. And so it's just a mess. And yeah, so I think that, and the noise pollution, another individualistic thing. Where I live right here, there's a person in front of me who just blares their music all day long. If they did that in the US, the police would be there within an hour. Definitely. The police would be there saying, you can't play your music that loud. You're bothering your neighbors. But I can hear people's music from the other side of the valley, that goes for the constant fireworks that are going off every day. There are fireworks. This would be considered crimes in the US. This would be considered noise pollution. If you want to have fireworks, you would have to get a permit from the government saying that on this special day we're going to have fireworks. So those things are much more regulated in the US. You never hear the kind of noise that you hear in Mexico. And as a gringo, I can't stand it. Why do I have to listen to my neighbor's terrible music? That's not fair.
Yeah, because I'm in my house and I can play it as loud as I want, whenever I want.
Wow.
Yeah, this individualistic thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, and I also don't understand is people do this and none of the neighbors will ever go to the house and knock on the door and say, could you please turn your music down? You guys don't do that. It's like, well, it's his house. I guess he can play the music as loud as he wants. In the US, boy, the entire neighborhood would be over there within a minute knocking on the door saying, what are you thinking? You got to turn your music down. This is crazy, man. In fact, something that's very popular in the US is we have neighborhood associations that make the rules for the neighborhood. You sign a contract when you buy the house saying you'll follow the rules of the neighborhood association, and you'll get fined. If you don't follow the rules, you'll get fined money. And so that's the way that American culture is much more communitarian than Mexican culture, because I've never heard of that in Mexico, that you have, a colonia, un vecindario, algo, where there's a contract amongst all the people who live there that they'll follow certain norms about parking, about the music, that stuff.
That happens in fraccionamientos, in these clusters but only there. I mean, not when you, like in normal or houses. But yeah, I mean, this sense of community, as you were saying, yeah.
And then we're quite on the opposite extreme of it, because if anyone comes to your door and tells you need to turn that music down, they're going to be seen as, es que son bien mamones, and I need to move from here, or stuff like that. It's not like we have no sense of consciousness as for, okay, I'm being annoying to other people. I'm not the only person who is around this area. Yeah, we're on the total opposite extreme. Keep it a Wensa, oh my gosh.
Okay, so the next slide. This is an interesting one because I was reading a sociologist about Mexico talking about why there are no high rises in Mexico. There are a few in Mexico City, you see more and more in places like Monterrey. They're becoming more popular. Some people, some engineers have said that, like in Mexico City, you just can't build high rises because of the ground, because of the earthquakes, because of the lake underneath. But other sociologists have said that there's no high rises because of this individualist attitude that nobody wants to share an apartment with somebody living above them, living below them, living on both sides of them, that they would much, much rather have their own piece of land that they can call their own, that's not shared in a communitarian way with other people, so that they can do anything they want. I don't know. I really don't know. I believe the engineering answer. I can also see the sociological answer. But it's interesting that you guys do tend to have fewer high rises than most other countries. All right, next.
More houses, yeah.
Punctuality. What could be more individualistic than thinking that your time is more important than everybody else's time? That's just bizarre to me. As a gringo, I do not understand this at all. And what's really weird is because Mexicans are very individualistic. Most Mexicans complain about this too. They say, why are these people late? I have a business meeting. I need to be places. But they themselves will not try to be on time. They just are also annoyed that other people aren't on time. This is what we call, in ethics and in philosophy or whatever, the problem of the commons. There's a common problem, but it can't be solved unless everybody commits to solving it. If everybody takes an individualistic approach, it will never be solved, right?
Yeah, and it also happens. I mean, we have noticed. I mean, teaching. When you try, for an example, you start a class. I mean, the time you need to start it. Ay, es que ¿por qué le empieza esa hora, teacher? 5 minutos. Like that, and you're like,
Denos chance.
wait, we're trying to make a change here. No, es que lots of things, no? And then it's like a chain reaction, so to speak. So it becomes super complex. Even when you try to modify it, even in your own person, it's complex to make all these kind of changes. Yeah.
And also, we're a very hypocritical society, I believe.
I
Because
know.
what I know we're not. Yeah. What you were saying. I mean, we will complain about these kind of things when other people do them. I'm gonna complain about my neighbor blasting their cumbia super loud at 3 a.m. And I do have to clarify that I don't do that. But just for the sake of the example. But if I want to blast my heavy metal at 3 a.m., I'm gonna do it. But I will not care about them. And híjole, es que 5 minutes. I'm just 5 minutes late. No problem. But when another person's late to a meeting with me, I'm gonna be complaining about that. So yes, we're a very hypocritical group of people, generally speaking.
I don't know if this was culture shock, but it was certainly a shock to me many years ago, maybe 15 years ago, when a group of my students asked me to ask if I could give them some advice. And I said, sure, of course. What's going on? And they said, well, there's this other teacher, and she's insisting that we come on time to class. And she's giving us demerits or taking grades off or lowering our grade for the class if we're late. And they actually asked me, what do you think we can do about this?
Be on time?
As a gringo, I'm like,
by a what?
yeah, that's a tough one. Jeez, what can we do about this? Wow, off the top of my head, I don't know. Maybe you could come on time. That would probably solve the problem. I seriously couldn't believe this was a class issue, and they were looking for solutions.
Yeah.
That was bizarre to me. Okay, next one. Okay, so that's individualism. That's one issue. And then there's this thorny issue, and I'm almost scared to get into this, about Mexico's complicated relationship with its history. These are things that I seriously don't understand, that confuse me. For example, the total rejection of Cortes and La Malinche in Mexico is totally baffling to me. There's not a single, I don't know if you know this, but there's not a single statue of Cortes in all of Mexico. That seems strange to me. Yeah, he was an asshole, absolutely. But he's also an asshole who brought, all your culture to this country. Everything that you have in Mexico, from the language to the church to the architecture, comes from Cortes. So it's a little weird that he's totally rejected. And as someone who's married to a Mexican woman, this Malinche thing is very strange to me. I mean, that's a terrible thing to say to a woman in Mexico. Eres una Malinche. When in fact she is the mother of the country. She is the mother of modern Mexico. Without Malinche, there would be no modern Mexico. So I find it very strange that these people that she's considered a traitor, for instance, when she's actually the one that brought European and indigenous culture together to form what we know as the modern Mexican state. So I would love if someone could explain this to me, because
I don't know if someone can explain it, but Anna has a comment.
Uh-huh.
Not as a comment, but as a descendant of the Malinche, here the other Mexicans call me traitor because my history talk about a woman who talks with Hernan Cortes, and yeah, the people call me traitor all the time.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, not nice.
So this problem with identity, this almost schizophrenic quality that Mexico has, at once believing that you're an indigenous culture, but at the same time, actually being a Spanish culture, I think is very strange. There's not a clear, logical story of Mexican development. So the next slide.
Yes.
So you see bizarre things like this.
Yeah.
This is bizarre. This would be like, if Hitler had won in Germany, and then every year some Germans dressing up as Jews and dancing traditional Jewish folk dances in front of the German chancellery. That's how this appears to a gringo. Spain and Cortes and the church came and absolutely destroyed the indigenous and Aztec cultures. And now every time there's a religious holiday, you'll see Mexicans dress up as Aztecs and dance happily in front of the buildings that destroyed those cultures. I just can't get my head around how this works. What is the story you're trying to tell? What is the cultural relevance of this? What does this mean?
I guess it has a lot to do with the preservation of these things.
Yeah, but why do it right in front of the church? That's always right in front of the church.
That's a good point.
I mean, if you want to preserve these things, they should have indigenous culture days. They should have cultural days devoted just to the remembrance of the cultures, right? But it's always on Catholic high holidays, which is a weird time to celebrate the cultures that were destroyed by the church.
Yeah, that's true.
As a foreigner, I don't understand it.
Never thought of that.
Marco?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it also has to do that when they came, they don't only destroy the ceremonial places and for the Mexicas and other cultures. For example, the mother of Mexico, that they say the mother of Mexico is the Virgen de Guadalupe. But in that place where she has the basilica, the huge temple, they used to adore Tonantzin, which was the original mother of Mexicans before the Spanish came to Mexico. So they basically destroy and erase many of the register of ancient gods and ancient rituals. So what we have today is just like basically a bad translation, because it comes from the conquerors, comes from the Spanish. I'm quite sure that that the the way that they are dressed is not even how the Mexicans dress at the time.
No, I'm sure that's true. They're kind of caricatures of somebody's
Yeah,
idea.
exactly.
Yeah.
And also we have this thing that, I mean, the way I understand it is we seem to be proud of all these things, but we don't actually want them to be there. It's like,
Widespread.
yes, it's cool to have them, but it's not cool to have them kind of very close, you know? I mean, it's good that they appear there because we belong to something else that we don't understand what we belong to. And but we are part of this. It's a very strange connection, a very strange understanding of all this. I mean,
Mhm.
when you even I believe for us Mexicans, no, it's like sí, o sea, qué chido que van y bailan y hacen esto y todo, but y qué padre que son parte de México, but they are not part of me. So
Mhm.
it's kind of weird in a way.
And also, it connects a bit with what Ken was saying in the previous slide about La Malinche and all the hatred that has been directed towards her for many years. Like, but we do hate her for being a traitor and for destroying this kind of rituals and dances and all of that. But we still idolize Europeans and foreigners and all of that. So it's also kind of dissonant in a way.
And that's a really interesting thing, the idea that she's a traitor. Who was she traitoring? What's the word thing that who was she a traitor to? Unless you are right now an Aztec and believe that the Aztec Empire should still be the reigning governmental force in Mexico, then who was she a traitor to? The Aztecs were hated, you know.
Yeah, they were the empire. Yeah.
Cortes did not destroy the Aztecs with guns and horses. He destroyed the empire with germs, of course. But he also destroyed it because Malinche helped him unify all the other indigenous peoples in Mexico to fight against the Aztecs. So nobody likes the Aztecs.
Tlaxcaltecas and such.
If you're going to be proud of your indigenous culture, you should be probably proud. You're probably proud of a culture that hated the Aztecs and wanted Cortes to win. So that's very strange, this Aztec idea that she was a traitor somehow. How can you be a traitor to somebody who was the enemy? Cortes was the enemy, and Moctezuma was the enemy. They were both terrible, terrible people who wanted to colonize all the other people in Mexico. There were no good people in this. There are no saints in this story. So it's weird that Malinche is considered a traitor. I don't understand that concept at all. Okay, next slide.
It seems like that's it.
Is that it? Is that all I have to say? Okay, I guess that's it. So those are some things that as a gringo after 20 years, I still don't get. And I think many Mexicans don't get it either.
You have a point in there, yeah, because I don't think we understand many of those things either. We don't even stop to think about them most of the times.
Of course, culture is it's like a fish swimming in water. We don't really notice it. We just swim through it. And so I think everybody's that way with their cultures. There's lots of things that are considered normal in my culture that I probably don't think about, which are weird to other people. It's just when you're in the middle of it, you just don't stop to think about it until somebody from maybe outside the culture points it out and you go, yeah, that is weird. Why do we do that?
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. So guys, I don't know if any of you has a question for Ken related to some of these things, a comment.
This is your chance to shine.
Oh yes.
Or
Daniel, of course.
even better than a question, I would just love to hear people's point of view about this, or their explanations, or if they agree or if they disagree.
Hi, Ken. Good morning.
Hey.
Hi. Your presentation it was very, very interesting, and I have a commentary because you are the third person of the day that said something related with the mobility, with the infrastructure. And it's curious because the first one was Susana, and then Liz, and then you. And it's really, really interesting how the people can see the difference between the infrastructures, no? And I have a question. You mentioned these festivities, these festivals, religious, and this with this combination with with Aztec traditions, no? In Mexico, in Spanish, we have the word syncretismo. I don't know if this word exists in English. How do you say syncretismo?
It doesn't exist in English, but I can't remember what it means.
Okay. According with that, in USA, do you have some traditions, some festivities with this syncretismo, o sea, with this combination between religion and traditions from, I don't know, Sioux or Apaches or something like that, or not?
Well, because I'm not sure what syncretismo refers to, can you explain that term to me?
Syncretismo is a combination between, I don't know, traditions and religions of different parts of the world. For example, in Mexico, we have Dia de Muertos, no? And Dia de Muertos is a combination of Catholic festivities, a Catholic tradition with indigenous traditions, no? Entonces, it's a combination. Also, we have 12 de diciembre, el Día de la Virgen de Guadalupe, is another example of syncretismo, no? Or the combination of La Virgen de Guadalupe, a tradition, a very, very European tradition, with the traditions of pre-Hispanic traditions, no? And so that's more or less is the meaning of syncretismo, when 2 or 3 traditions are combined, mixed, I don't know, in one festivity, in one festival, no? I don't know if you in USA have some kind of these of these festivals. I don't know.
That's a great question. Makes me think a little bit. We don't have as many religious holidays in the United States, of course, as in Mexico, because, of course, 99% of Mexicans are Catholics, and so you have that kind of unity. In the United States, there's a supposed separation of church and state, although lots of people want to close that separation. But we still get things like Easter off. We get, vacation for Easter. Why? We shouldn't. That's clearly a religious holiday that belongs to one particular religion. Hindus don't get a week off. Wiccans don't get a week off, whatever your religion is. Just the Christians get that week off. But there are many festivals that combine nationalism with historic inaccuracy. Because we are an immigrant country with so many different religions, it's been very important to our culture to create narratives of unity, to try to hold all those people together. One of those narratives is Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving Day.
Where the colonialists came to the United States and were best friends with the Indians, and everybody could get along, and we celebrated our friendships with other people and had this great meal. We know that's completely a myth. It's even sort of a disgusting myth, because we weren't friends with the Indians. We killed all the Indians. We had basically one nice meal with them, and then we started to exterminate them for the next 200 years. So that's really problematic. And in schools today, even though we're becoming more aware of these issues, kids will still dress up as little Indians, and the other kids will dress up as little pilgrims, little colonialists, and they'll sit down at a table and pretend that they're sharing the first Thanksgiving. And that would only be accurate if the little children dressed up as the colonialists then killed all the little children dressed up as the Indians. That would be a more accurate representation of what happened. So of course we have the same kinds of problems. This picture of the Aztecs is Mexico's problem. America has the exact same kinds of problems. Us trying to figure out a myth that can unite us and maintain our culture and maintain us as a country. But it's hard to make those myths because they're all lies, And more and more, which I think is a good thing, more and more people are taking their own identities back and saying, I'm not part of the American myth. We were excluded from the American myth. We don't want to play these games anymore. And I think they have every right to do that, and I think that's a healthy development. But if the American Indians say, no, we're not Americans, if the blacks in the U.S. say, no, we're not part of that experience, if all the different groups that make up America, as they take back their own identities, if they say that, the problem is then what are you left with? How do you find that unity that you need to have a shared culture and a shared country?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ken.
Thanks for the question.
See you later. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you, Daniel. Don't know if anyone else has another question, comment. Échale, Marco.
And if someone else wants to raise their hand, please do so.
And please,
Okay.
if someone disagrees with me, I love that. You can tell me to go to hell, that I don't know anything. Fuera gringo. Gringo.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say,
You cannot, you can't hurt my feelings.
I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to say it was nice to see you again, and hope to see you soon in the future. So I need to go.
Okay.
Well, so I just want to say goodbye and thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Sergio, for
No, more than
this.
welcome.
So see you all.
Thanks to you for coming, Marco.
Cheers, Marco. I hope we'll see each other again soon.
Hopefully. You still owe me a beer, or it was a coffee or something.
I owe you a beer.
Yeah. When I,
Is it me?
when I go back to the university, you say, okay, we need to have a beer.
Oh, I don't think I said I was going to buy you a beer.
Well, no, I can buy the beers, no problem. But we need
But-
to
But
have one.
I would be happy to buy you a beer if that's what it takes to get us together. That's no problem. I'll be more than happy to pick up. some.
Yeah, please. Well, see you then. And
Thank you,
Bye.
Marco.
Great
Bye
weekend.
bye.
Do we have any other question, comment?
Comments or something, guys?
Raise your hands. This is your chance. Come
Or,
on, guys.
or use the chat. No le saquen. Come on.
Like, oh, he speaks English. Oh my God.
Ajá.
Well, incluso ustedes pueden hacer tus preguntas en español. Está bien también, pero.
Because we're bilinguals in here. Para que vean, ¿eh?
Yeah,
Para que vean.
I'm pretty sure all of us are understanding, right?
Okay, well, I'm over my time anyway.
Okay.
Thanks for the opportunity to come and see all of you. It was really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Congratulations,
for coming.
congratulations to you guys too for putting together such a nice panel experience. You guys are really
Thank
cool.
you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
We're
It
trying our
was super,
best.
super nice to have you. Yes. And
Yeah.
we have,
Thanks a
right
lot.
before we close the segment, obviously we have a very, very nice diploma for you, my dear Ken.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yes.
I saw this diploma, of course, twice so far, and I just
Oh,
wanted to
yes,
say
but yours
that.
is personalized.
But Sergio, you have the coolest signature I've ever seen. That is
thank you very
really,
much.
man. Are you an artist or graphic artist? or
No, of
something?
course not.
Oh, it's just so beautiful. It's really neat.
Thank you
Oh.
very much.
And before I go, let me say, here's another cultural difference that I noticed. I just remembered it. Mexicans, in general, your signatures are awesome. You all have really fancy, interesting, big, large, elaborate signatures. We don't really have that in the United States. Some people, yes, some people no, but all of you, look at your signatures. Next time you see someone sign a paper, they'll be doing like this for
That's true.
like 5 minutes. It's like a
Yeah.
work of art. And your signature, Sergio, is an example of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think of my own signature as something super simple because now that you mentioned that, my father and my grandfather on my mother's side, they took their time to actually sign something. My father even warm up his hand. He was like, and then it was like a lot of, in Spanish
Wow.
we would say garigoleado,
Uh-huh.
super complex signature. And I was like, and all of us here, Mexicans here, there is a moment in primary school, secondary school, high school even, when we are thinking like, la credencial del IFE or something, and then we start practicing at the back of
Yes.
our notebooks. We have pages and pages and pages
That's true.
practicing our signature. So this is, I never noticed that this would be something cultural.
Yeah, it's definitely cultural. Man, I love your signatures. They're all works of art. They're really cool.
We're
Thank
going to
you.
be needing some
Especially with
evidence
such
of
a
your
beautiful-
signature, Ken, to compare.
Muchachos, échenos sus firmas para ver.
Ajá. We need to compare now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, guys, thank you very much for everything.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much,
thank
Ken.
you very
You
much, Ken.
fucking
A
rock.
nombre,
You guys fucking rock as well.
you do, yes. Y pues sí, la oficialidad. Now I'm going to switch into Spanish because el diploma is in Spanish, no? A nombre de Anglia, one more time, we want to say thank you very, very, very much. It was super cool to have you here, Ken. You're amazing. You fucking rock. Thank you very much. You're obviously welcome to stay for the following
Yeah,
segment that
sure,
we're going to
sure.
have, and you're welcome to come back at any point also. Y pues sí, hartas gracias. You rock.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks.
Bravo.
Woo! Yes.